Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to News Dose, and I hope everybody who celebrated Thanksgiving had a great time. For that matter, even if you don't celebrate Thanksgiving, it's not a worldwide holiday, but I just hope everybody had a great, fantastic day. Seriously, I wish each and every one of you all the absolute best. Either way, though, we are back at it again. There are a few notable things worth talking about today because, well, the Game Awards is right around the corner, and that also means leaks are aplenty now. We do have a few inklings of what will be there, including apparently an Xbox announcement. So we will talk about that today, as well as a pretty significant change for Nintendo Switch Online, which more or less could be a sign for the future. Before we get started, though, do make sure to subscribe and ring that bell. That way, every time I post a new video, it'll be delivered directly to your device. If you want the latest gaming news, it's a great way to stay up to date, so don't forget to hit those buttons. With that said, though, let's just go and jump right into things, starting off with Stellar Blade for the PlayStation 5. Now, as far as I'm aware, we actually already knew this, but apparently a lot of people didn't, because this has been making waves all day long. So if anything, I guess this is a little bit of a refresher, but it has been reconfirmed that Stellar Blade is a second-party title published by PlayStation. You can see from this article, it says, Shift Up announced on the 24th that it signed a PlayStation distribution contract for Stellar Blade with Sony Interactive Entertainment, a manufacturer of PlayStation brand products. Shift Up plans to collaborate with SIE to introduce the AAA masterpiece console game Stellar Blade on the PlayStation 5 console throughout the world, including Korea. Through this contract, Shift Up officially becomes the first Korean company to join Sony's second-party partner. So I actually think that this is a pretty cool announcement. AAA game development seems to be on the rise in places like Korea and even China. And I'm really glad to see a first-party company like Sony come in and recognize that. They've already done a pretty good job at recognizing talent in China. Look at Genshin Impact as an example. There's also Lost Souls aside. I know there's a lot of excitement for that one. And now they're also putting in some of that effort into Korea as well by pumping money into games like Stellar Blade. This game looks pretty good. This game has caught a lot of attention. I know it's had my attention pretty much ever since it was first announced as Project Eve, and it continues to look potentially very good. It is inspired by Nier Automata, and that right there is the part that really grabbed me about this game. I do love the Nier series. Those are just such good games, and if Stellar Blade can even capture a portion of what those games are, then I am all in when this game eventually releases in hopefully 2024. Now, speaking of PlayStation, though, the internet did some digging around, and they discovered a Sony patent that was made way back in 2015, and as you can see here, it strikes some resemblance with the newly released PlayStation Portal. Instead of having a DualSense controller attached to the tablet, though, it appears to have a DualShock 4, being a part of the PS4 generation, of course. But other than that, it looks almost identical to the PlayStation Portal, all the way down to the position of where the analog stick sits on the tablet. It's essentially the same thing outside of the controller, which is really interesting to see just because designs usually evolve after a patent is filed. You don't usually see a one-to-one match like this. They're usually pretty basic drawings, but I guess Sony decided this is good enough. Now, just to be clear, though, even though this patent has been around since 2015, that doesn't mean that the Portal has been in development for 8 years. More realistically, Sony just went back and revisited the idea. Maybe it was tucked away in somebody's office, and they were like, hey, it's time to make this a reality. People have better Wi-Fi now, and why not revive it for the PS5? It's a low-cost, low-risk device, and it may fill a niche for fans who have the internet capable of taking advantage of its remote play functionality. I think one thing that this patent shows us, though, is that some of these designs do come to life, and that's why we talk about patents on the channel. We were recently talking about those dual-screen Switch successor patents, and while that could end up being absolutely nothing, there's no guarantee with any kind of patent, but it is still something at least worth talking about, because if anything else, it is an idea that these companies are at least considering. Okay, so let's go and talk about the Game Awards, though, because now that it's only 2 weeks away, leaks are starting to make their way online. I mean, this is the reason that most people tune into the Game Awards, those world premieres and new game announcements, and we've already heard some rumblings about 2 notable announcements, though they could actually be linked together. More on that here in just a second. But first, Xbox is allegedly going to make some type of an announcement at the Game Awards. This is according to Jez Corden on the Xbox 2 podcast. He claims that Xbox will be there after a complete absence last year. I mean, they were heavily criticized last year for not showing up. So, doing something would make a lot of sense. But as to what they're going to do, I mean, that still remains to be seen. Jez Corden didn't exactly go into great detail about what they're actually going to announce, because he said last time he teased something for a show, fans apparently got mad at him, saying that BlizzCon wasn't good enough. So, I mean, I guess let the speculation commence. We can actually make some predictions here. And, if this is a game-related reveal, the first game that comes to mind is Hellblade 2. That is one of their next big games for 2024, and some kind of gameplay reveal would be a great way to build hype for next year. I mean, I understand that they showed this game earlier in the year, but I mean, it was kind of a weird segment of game to share. It was like a dialogue portion, and it was just a very strange choice to show. But, here they could maybe show us a gameplay update with its combat, which would be very nice to see. And with the audience that the Game Awards attracts, it would be the perfect place to build some hype for Hellblade 2. If not that, though, and this is really just my own personal hope, but I'd love to see an update for Perfect Dark. We've really seen nothing on Perfect Dark at all since it was first teased back in, 2020? So as a fan of the original, I mean, I'd love to get an update on its gameplay, but realistically, it probably won't release next year, so they might hold on to its reveal for a while longer. We'll see about all that, but that's the thing about Xbox. They have so many games in development right now. They have Avowed. There's Indiana Jones that Machine Games is working on. That could be a big world premiere. There's Everwild. That game is still a big mystery. You have Fable. You have State of Decay 3, and the list just kind of goes on and on and on. So there's a lot of possibilities here. Xbox, they have like 30 plus studios now, but like I said before, there was something else that happened that might be noteworthy, and it could possibly be linked to Xbox. Now, vice versa, it could also be linked to PlayStation, so you PlayStation fans might want to perk up as well, and that's because Hideo Kojima is teasing something on Twitter. You can see here he posted some images of sound equipment with the title Mix, and even more interesting is that the Game Awards replied to this post with an eyeball emoji. Now, they have since removed that tweet, but as you all know, the internet doesn't simply forget things. Screenshots have already been captured. And then adding even more fuel to the fire, Kojima has also retweeted some Game Award posts as well. So when you start to put all of the clues together, I mean, yeah, it kind of sounds like Kojima might be at the Game Awards, which, he does like Jeff Keighley, so, that doesn't really seem like it's out of the realms of possibility. Now, with that said, though, if he does actually show up, what could he actually reveal? Because, figuring that part out isn't really as simple as you might think. Kojima is working on several different projects, including a movie, so that can't necessarily be ruled out. He could just simply reveal a movie and that's it. But he's also working on 2 different games as well. One for PlayStation being Death Stranding 2, which has already been unveiled, but maybe he could give us an update on that game. And then he has another project in the works with Xbox. It's allegedly a horror game by the name of Overdose, which previously leaked out online, and it utilizes cloud-based technology in some capacity. Now, this could actually end up being a really interesting project, though, just because Kojima is just so creative, and it'll be interesting to see what he can come up with using the cloud, especially in the horror genre. I mean, we already got a small glimpse of what he's capable of with the legendary PT demo. People loved that demo, but now we might get a full-on horror experience from him all these years later, which is pretty cool to think about. So whether you're an Xbox fan, if you're a PlayStation fan, or hey, if you're just a Kojima fan like myself, then you might want to go and keep your ears open for some type of an announcement at the Game Awards. Of course, though, if you're subscribed, I will let you know about it either way. Now, one other thing that we do need to talk about, though, is Nintendo, because they revealed a pretty big change for their Switch online service in Japan, and this could potentially impact the service worldwide in a very good way. So they just announced Jet Force Gemini is releasing worldwide. We talked about this the other day, and then Japan will get that game and GoldenEye as well. And when you first hear that, you might be wondering, why wasn't GoldenEye already available in Japan? Because, it's been available elsewhere for quite some time. So what exactly is happening here? And the reason for all this is because both of those games were rated Z in Japan, which means that you need to be 18 years or older to play them. And because of that, they couldn't include these games in their Switch Online service without raising the age restriction for the app. So in order to circumvent that, what Nintendo is doing is that they're now launching a Switch Online adults-only app where you can play these mature-rated games. Now, this is only in Japan right now, but it's really not too far-fetched to think that they might do something similar worldwide, because there's a lot of really good Nintendo 64 games with that mature rating attached to them, and this opens the door for those games to eventually release into the service. I mean, just looking at a quick list of games that holds a mature rating on the Nintendo 64, that list includes Doom 64, you have Resident Evil 2, Shadow Man, Mortal Kombat, Turok, and then my personal favorite being Conker's Bad Fur Day. Now, to be fair, games like Turok and Doom already have re-releases available on the Switch, so I wouldn't really expect those to come to Switch Online, but with games like Conker's Bad Fur Day, that would be a very, very welcome addition. In fact, and we just talked about this the other day, Xbox and Nintendo, they have already partnered up for several Switch Online releases, including Jet Force Gemini, that's coming to the service in December or November 30th if you're in Japan, and they've also partnered up to include Banjo-Kazooie as well as GoldenEye 007. So I feel like by this point, more rare Nintendo 64 games could be heading to Switch Online, which I think makes perfect sense. They were such a huge part of the Nintendo 64 with games like Conker, Perfect Dark, Killer Instinct, Diddy Kong Racing. That is one of my favorites there. And then you have Banjo, and etc., etc., etc. And with the new adult-only Switch Online app, Conker really is one of the first games that immediately comes to mind, and I think that would be such a great thing to see happen. I mean, anything at all that gives Conker more recognition, I think that is always a great thing, in my opinion. Let's go take a look at the poll of the day, though. We're asking you all, do you think the Star Wars Knights of the Old Republic remake will ever release? And yeah, so the majority of you all are not too optimistic on this one. 67% of you said no, while only 25% of you said yes. So, I can't blame you all just because of how many problems this game has had so far. They moved on from the original developer because whatever kind of demo they showed behind closed doors apparently wasn't too impressive, and now we're hearing reports that Sony might be out on the project as well. It does sound like that it is still in development, but yeah, there's a lot of red flags with this game so far, and that's why we're seeing some of the reactions that we are online. There is a legitimate concern that this game will ever release, but I do remain optimistic. I think that this game will eventually happen. I'm not expecting it to be anytime soon, but from everything that we're hearing, sounds like Embracer Group still wants this to happen. Sounds like LucasArts still wants this to happen. So now it's really just about finding a publisher that will help fund the game. Now, if Sony wants to move on from this project, there's a good chance that somebody else will pick it up. You have Xbox out there, and they do have some ties with the original game, so maybe they would be interested. But even if Xbox isn't interested, Star Wars is a huge IP, so I imagine somebody out there will be interested in picking this game up, especially considering the original is so beloved. I do think that it will eventually find a publisher, even if Sony did back off of this project. So yeah, I'm going to say it will happen. It's just going to be a while before us fans actually get to play it ourselves. Anyways, though, that's it for this episode. But if you liked the video, don't forget the bell notification and subscribe button for more content just like this. Also, if you'd like to support the channel through Patreon, thank you for making this content possible. Peace out.